Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're jumping into something pretty specific that's been making the rounds. This question: does Zoro rely too much on Enma? You know,
It's a good one.
a guy known for his willpower gets this, well, intense sword.
It really is a great question, and that's our mission for this deep dive, right? To sort of unpack what our sources tell us about this whole relationship between Zoro and Enma. We want to look at what the info reveals about, his power, his growth, and what's really going on between them.
Okay, yeah, let's get into it, because the source material we looked at is actually pretty direct about it. Maybe not what you'd first think.
Exactly. It states pretty definitively, actually, Zoro doesn't rely too much on Enma, which, kind of flies in the face of the idea that this super powerful sword would make him dependent, but then explains why that's the case, getting into Enma's most challenging feature.
Right, so it's not just a simple no. There's more under the surface.
Yeah.
So what is it about Enma? How does it work, according to the source, and how does that, shape Zoro?
Well, yeah, this is the key part. The source says that while Enma gives him a massive power boost, no doubt about that, its real impact comes from how it aggressively drains the user's Haki, constantly. It forces Zoro to keep pushing, to refine his own control, otherwise the sword would just overwhelm him completely. It's not just a weapon, it's like this relentless training partner.
Okay. So less like a crutch he leans on for power.
Yeah.
And more like a really intense workout specifically for his Haki. He's not just using it, he's actively fighting to use it correctly.
Precisely. The source puts it clearly. Zoro is learning to control his Haki better through Enma. So if you think about it, this isn't him just relying on something external. It's this interactive process. Enma pushes him, forces his own internal Haki, his control, to get way, way better. It's about developing his own strength, not just borrowing the swords. It actually speeds up his development because it's so demanding.
Gotcha. So it's really about mastery then. The true nature of their connection isn't just power, it's this constant back and forth. Enma throws down a challenge, and Zoro has to level up internally to meet it, unlocking more of his own potential.
Exactly right. It kind of shows that sometimes the most valuable tools aren't the easy ones. They're the ones that demand more from you. They force you past what you thought your limits were. And that whole dynamic really speaks to Zoro's character, his ambition and willpower.
Okay, so let's pull it all together. Our deep dive into the source seems pretty conclusive. Zoro does not rely too much on Enma. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. While the power output from Enma is huge, its real significance, like the source says, is how it compels Zoro to achieve a much higher level of Haki skill. It accelerates his internal growth rather than just acting as an outside power source.
Which nails that final point from the source.
Yeah.
This relationship represents growth rather than dependency. That's the key takeaway, isn't it? It's a cool aha moment, realizing that these powerful tools, if you approach them right, can actually push your own development, your own mastery.
It's a really important distinction, yeah. The tool isn't a substitute for his skill. It's actually forcing his skill to evolve. It reminds us that real strength often comes from tackling challenges, sometimes even the ones presented by the very things helping us.
Absolutely. So maybe something for you, the listener, to chew on today. Think about this idea. How might that concept, a tool pushing growth instead of creating dependence, show up in other parts of your life? What tools are you using, maybe in learning something new or developing a skill, that are actually demanding more from you and pushing your own mastery forward? Interesting thing to consider.